Hi, Chomi. Welcome to another episode of Meet Me in My Corner. I am Dr. K, and I'm your host. So today we're speaking about the inner critic. Guys, I was Friday years old when I learned about this concept, and I was just like, damn, why did it only get to me now? But, everything does happen for a reason. And in actual fact, it's probably really great that it's happened now because now I have Meet Me in My Corner and I can share this information with you. Just to give you background, I was at a workshop thanks to my job, because my job is really exposing me to all the things that I feel like I need, all the tools that I need to become a better person in some way, right? So I was at a workshop. It was put together by the Bertha Center. I think it's a mental health center. I know they're from UCT. Maybe I should have did more research before I spoke about them. But anyway, they put together a workshop alongside Repsi on, leadership and how your leadership can impact the youth's mental health and how you need to be aware of your mental health. Guys, it was just such a beautiful workshop. It was vital. It has changed so much of my perspective in such a short space of time. So one of the things that came out of that is this concept of the inner critic. And to think that this has been out there for quite some time and I just didn't know about it. And I just feel like we've all been stuck on only one facet of it, which is imposter syndrome. We all speak about that quite a lot, but we don't realize that imposter syndrome is just a little part. It's like a little section of this bigger picture. And this bigger picture is your inner critic. So after hearing that concept, and we were given homework to, get into our inner critic and understanding them, because a big part of this conversation is obviously for me to, start the journey with you, in that you're going to have to identify your inner critic. You need to understand who they are, how they were made up, and what makes them tick, what doesn't, and actually starting to separate yourself from your inner critic so that your voice comes back, okay? Because your inner critic is not who you are. But anyway, so just hearing that concept was just like, whoa. So I spent the weekend just like reading up on it, watching 2 TED Talks, which were, and I've put them in my description box. You're going to love them. You're going to love them. You're going to love them, right? And I hope a lot of you actually haven't heard about this concept, because I'd love for this journey to be shared with you, okay? I'm going to speak in a way that I normally do, where it seems like I am educating you. But I hope you always understand that in actual fact, what I'm doing is I'm speaking to myself. Funny enough, I see myself as the audience of Meet Me in My Corner. But anyway, I have struggled with this inner critic for a very long time. We all do. And now having a name and a concept that is put to it, and having all these tools that exist that will help me deal with it, is so amazing, guys. I feel even energized in having this conversation and just being in this moment. But I do want to say that my inner critic reared her head today. I have paused. I have recorded, deleted so many times. And I was just like, it's so funny that this conversation that I want to have about, getting out of my head and dealing with this inner critic is actually rearing its head today. And today was the worst. Today I kept telling myself I'm unqualified to have this conversation. I don't have what it takes. I'm not good enough. It's going to expose me. It's going to expose that I'm inadequate. It's going to expose that I have so much more work to do, and which is true. Some of the things are true, but it doesn't mean that I have to stop what I'm doing. Anyway, yes. So let's get into actually talking about what this inner critic is and how they can morph and where they come from. Okay. So the inner critic will be a voice that is quite familiar to you. And it will be made up of, instances. It could be events. It could be the way you were parented. It could be a traumatic situation. And it could be as a result of certain failures, which we all are susceptible to, right? And it will morph itself in your brain or in your mind as an idealized sense of self. So when I think about my inner critic, I'm going to name her Maria. And if your name is Maria, I'm sorry. Not even Maria. Maria. Okay? Oh, funny. That was actually my grand's name. And we didn't have the best relationship. It's funny because I didn't actually think of that. But I guess, yeah, actually, yes. Wow. Sorry, I just had an epiphany. She was very hard on me, actually. I never felt very loved by her. I never felt like I was somebody that she actually valued. I just never felt any type of care from her. I just felt like she did what she needed to do. She never abused me or anything like that. And she wasn't like all the way toxic towards me, but there was just this inaction towards me, if I can say it that way. Like, it's like whether I was there or not, it didn't really change her day. And yeah, she probably saw my presence for whatever. Yeah, so I just never felt very loved by her. She probably did love me, I just didn't feel it. Okay. And yes, she was very like authoritative, and she always used to tell us, get out the sun, don't do this, and no. And those things do become your inner critic, right? And that voice is a voice that is always there. It always comes up, no matter what you're doing. You could do something simple like making the bed, and maybe that day you didn't fluff up your pillows that well, and then that inner critic will come in and say, look at you can't even make this the bed, like you're such a disaster, you're not organized, and all these things start coming up. You are just a failure at everything that you do, even simple things. And then what then will amplify it is seeing other people do things right. And now all of a sudden, you think that your life and your world is terrible and you're a shit person just because your inner critic was so critical of the fact that you couldn't fluff up a pillow. Okay. And it will breed feelings of obviously inadequacy, and also breed self-doubt, right? And you'll stop listening to yourself. You'll stop actually hearing your own voice. And a big thing that I need to put out there as well, and I hope I haven't said this, is that your inner critic is not who you are. She is completely, or he or they or it is completely made up. Okay? You're not born on this earth criticizing yourself. You're not born on this earth to be anxious, to always feel guilty, to feel shameful, to feel angry, to feel inadequate. Okay. If you look at it, all children, when they're born, they're pretty happy, and they have their being, and then you're taught identity. Then you're taught then you're socialized, right? And then that's how your inner critic starts to form and starts to play a big role on the stage in your brain. All right. And then this inner critic will make you risk averse. So you won't put yourself out there because you don't want to fail, because they tell you that whatever you do, you're going to fail, right? And that's where you then see things like imposter syndrome. That's where people will be very capable of doing something, but they will have this feeling that they're an imposter, that they are not meant to be in the spaces they're in. How many of us can say yes to that? We all can. We definitely all can, right? And that is the inner critic. The inner critic also will really affect your interpersonal relationships, because the criticism that you feel for yourself doesn't stop there, okay? It will manifest in some way in your interpersonal relationships. You will either be the aggressor, which I have found myself in, where you're also very critical of others, where you hold everything to a high standard. And because you hold yourself to a higher standard, you hold everybody else to that higher standard. And it's very difficult to be around you because people feel like, they can't make mistakes around you. They can't be imperfect around you because you want to be perfect. Honey, let me tell you, the research dragged me for filth. Doing this research and seeing certain things and listening to these TEDx talks, they dragged me for filth. I was like, damn, that's who I am. My inner critic really comes out even in my parenting. I see it. I parent from a perspective or from a place of anxiety. I'm always very scared. And it doesn't come out in a very gentle way. It's very harsh. No. And guys, now that I know that the things that I say to my child can then breed her inner critic, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of unlearning and a lot of undoing I need to do. So I'm very thankful that, I've gotten to a point where I've learned this concept. So I was listening to a TEDx talk put together by Steve Chapman, and he speaks about, identifying your inner critic and dancing with them. So he takes you through this whole journey of how, he realized what his inner critic was and who his inner critic was and who informed the inner critic. I mean, he speaks about he went to his home and then in his hometown, and he looked at his report cards and he started to identify, the same voice that his inner critic uses. Things like that. And I was like, damn, that is true. And how for a very long time, he tried to beat the inner critic. He tried to battle the inner critic, but he realized that in actual fact, he has to learn who his inner critic is. He has to investigate. So he went on to a journey of learning his inner critic, spending time with him. He was even drawing him. And this then helped him see himself as separate from it. And he also speaks about the fact that, energy is not something, if you wish to transform energy, and your inner critic is an energy, right? You don't battle it, you need to nurture it. So being on this journey of self-awareness, right, and understanding your inner critic is what will actually ultimately liberate you. And he speaks about the practice of bearing witness, and you bear witness to your inner critic. Okay. I also really love the teachings of okay, guys, I'm sorry. I might say his name very wrong. And if this is your hero, I am so sorry. And here I am just trying to look for the tab just so I can read it out to you. You see, my inner critic is telling me, dude, you're taking too long. You're making mistakes. Nah, I'm not listening to that girl. Okay, so Shazad Shamin. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I listened to his TEDx talk, but for some odd reason, I didn't listen to his name. I was just so enthralled with what he was sharing. Oh, guys, he was captivating as well. Also going to share that TEDx talk with you. So he speaks about a theory called positive intelligence, and I really like it, actually. And it's all about having a relationship with your mind that helps you instead of it hindering you. So he speaks of an equation called the positive intelligence quotient, right? Where he puts your sage over your saboteurs. Okay, and I'll explain what that means now. And the higher your sage will obviously make your percentage of time your mind works in your best interest higher. Okay, and that's what you want, right? Where you have a stronger relationship with your mind and you feel that your mind is your best friend and not your enemy. Okay, I really like this concept. And I'm so grateful I got an opportunity to be put down this track. Okay. So he's done some research and he says that he has uncovered that the left and the right areas of our brain think differently. We all know that, right? I hope you do know that. And he thinks of the left part of the brain as a saboteur. So the left part of the brain is the more higher functioning one, right? So that's what people call your logical brain. And then he also says that this is your survival zone. And the right side of your brain, which is your more creative, your more emotive side, right? The side that we actually don't spend enough time working with. Because I feel like in society, a lot of people don't see that side of your brain can really benefit the world. So that's why we spent a lot of time building the muscle of the left part of our brain. But your right side is your sage, and this is your thrive region. So your sage, he describes it so beautifully, is who we were when we were born and when we were children, before all these things started happening to us, before your traumas, before, the negative talk from parents, or, your external situations, your environment or your occupation or whatever, right? Before all of those things, that's when you had a stronger sense of your sage. Your sage is always there. It will always be within you, right? But for a lot of us, our saboteurs are what really drive us. So he says that, so you can think of it as taking your brain to the gym for a spot of exercise and targeting specific muscle. That is positive intelligence, okay? Being mentally unfit can cause mental stress, which can take the form of anxiety, depression, frustration, anger, and a whole host of other emotions. So Shaman found that those with higher PQ, so the positive intelligence, had stronger immune systems and also benefited from things like low blood pressure, fewer medical conditions, and better sleep. Okay, I'm not going to go into that because I haven't done enough research and a deeper dive into how he came to that. So we're not going to spend much time on that, right? But we do know that the happier you are, the more you're willing to do things that are healthier for you, and those healthy activities will then ultimately make sure that you live a longer and a fuller life, right? Well, that's if you don't get hit by a bus. Sorry. Okay, right. But I want to get to these saboteurs, okay? So these are then your inner critics. So I put these two concepts together. He's created his own concept, but I feel like these do marry with each other, right? And I want to know from you, obviously in the comments, wherever you engage with me, what really resonated with you, okay? So he speaks of the fact that there's 10 saboteurs. The first one is the judge. The judge is your master saboteur or master saboteur. The judge will do just that. It will judge you over mistakes and nag you about the consequences. It'll make you worry, obsess, and fixate, and can trigger other saboteurs to join in its crusade, which can impact your concentration, motivation, and mood. So I had a judge moment. So there are two saboteurs that I really identify myself with, like fully, that has really impacted me. But a lot of these we'll all see them coming up in ourselves, and then maybe one or two will really reign true for you. So let's speak about that judge. Okay, so my inner critic's name, as I said before, is Maria, right? Maria wants Maria's not kind. Maria once made me believe that I was incapable of getting a job that I was very capable of getting. Okay. This was my first true interview, like true work interview. Okay. I've done like interviews for like staff, but they were never at the level of this. Okay. And the corporate is a different ball game. So when I was in my community service, I had decided that I really wanted to go into medical affairs, which is corporate medicine. Okay. I was so certain. Now, Maria got some affirmation from someone at work in the clinical space who said to me that they don't think that, I'll get a job in corporate medicine. And it wasn't like that. She didn't say it blatantly like that, but she laughed at the fact that I was really struggling with, finding interviews. And I just remember her looking at me and saying, it's actually tough, right? It's not as easy as you think. And then I didn't realize that this person was projecting on me. And because they didn't see it being possible for themselves, they couldn't see it being possible for me. So they really wanted me to share that demotivation with them, right? So this really backed up Maria. Oh, it made Maria feel good. She was like, yes, girl, tell her. Like, this girl really thinks she can leave clinical medicine. She thinks she has what it takes. Damn, she's dreaming. She's reaching, right? Okay, cool. I went on to a hectic research journey. Guys, I spoke to so many people. I think I probably spoke to the whole country, which is in medical affairs. I spoke to so many people. I was on the phone with different kinds of people. There were people who were very willing, very interested, and there were people who were not so interested, I chatted to people on LinkedIn. I watched YouTube videos. I joined groups, an MSL group, and most of them are not even in this country, just so that I could equip myself for this job. I really wanted to become a medical science liaison. I even had sessions with my mentor. And I think another thing that didn't help is that my mentor, she's still my mentor though, because she did mean well, is that she said, like, this job is just too easy. It's not a job that you'd see a doctor actually do. She wishes that I would strive more for a medical advisor. But because she then said that, I then started to feel that I'm actually inadequate because I really wanted the medical science liaison job. Okay, cool. So anyway, I put in a lot of work and time. In actual fact, I think I overdid it because I then started to, muddle up what I was doing, and I overcomplicated something that was actually quite simple, something that I really could grasp, right? And it's because I allowed so many voices and so many opinions to make me feel better. And that's what I thought it would do, right? I thought that by getting all this information, it'll make my inner critic Maria kind of like die down and like sit in her corner. But in actual fact, it kind of strengthened her because she then kept saying, you see, you're so unqualified. Now look, this person gave you this information. You don't have that. Oh, look, you went to go do this and that. And look, you didn't do that well at that. So you don't have what it takes. Okay. So I finally land an interview. I do the first part of the interview, which was a recording at home. That was the best because you could literally record your answer 3 times, right? So I literally could call people in between and just ask them, like, dude, am I wording this right? And all of that. And these things were in my brain, but because I didn't have that trust and belief in myself, I had so much self-doubt. I didn't think I was capable of going through that interview on my own. But anyway, it actually got me through, by the way. It really did get me through. And I remember I got the news that I was then put forward for the second part of the interview while I was doing like a training, some training. And I remember I was so excited. Oh, guys, I was so excited. And then that excitement kind of like lasted for 15 minutes. And then I read the fine print and it said that I had to put together a case study and had to be in person. And then Maria was like, girl, you think you can go there in person and they're going to believe you? You got away with it before because you called people. Like, you actually are incapable of doing this job. So obviously then my stomach drops. From that point, I had already started to build a wall around myself that would act as a barrier for me getting this job. Okay, so one of the objectives, or what am I trying to say? Maria, die down. What am I trying to say? One of the activities was for me to put together a presentation. Okay, so it was important for me to do so because that's actually what I would do on a day-to-day. So they kind of want to see if you are capable of actually doing the job. And this presentation was a case presentation, and you could only get 24 hours to do that. I obviously also then fixated on that 24 hours. And because you only get your topic 24 hours before, there was no way that I could prepare for it. But I tried to prepare for a case study. And I watched a YouTube video, and this girl was talking about how she did her case study and nah. So I'm like, okay, if I follow everything she says, then I'll get it right. And Maria kept saying, but you're not her. I even found a friend with this process. So it got to a point where I then get sent the case study. So my interview was going to be the next day at 3 o'clock. So obviously the day before at 3 p.m., I get my case study. And guys, it was a therapeutic area that I had no idea of, no passion for, no true interest and no true background, right? For the medics who are listening, it was rheumatology. And I had to put together basically a presentation of how I would communicate my findings of the research to a key opinion leader in rheumatology, right? And those people are very smart. Because I just need to say, physicians are very, very smart. And because now I'm telling myself that I'm unqualified and these people are expertise and they're so special, like it's such a specialized field of work, I just said to myself, oh my God, like I cannot do this. And guys, the words in rheumatology, the names, the pharmaceutical names are just also so tough. So it also didn't help. Sure. Okay, cool. So now I'm sitting with this case study. It's 3 o'clock. Guys, I think for 4 hours, I spent it just reading. I couldn't even read the words. I was in such a mind fog that even thinking back to that time is kind of like, it makes me feel weird. Like, I don't know, it wasn't a trauma. Okay, it wasn't a trauma, but it was kind of traumatizing. I was so brain fogged. Maria was loud that day. Maria had a loud hailer in my ear saying, yo, girl, kanete, you think you can do this? Ah, shame. That's hilarious. Guys, at 9 o'clock that evening, that was the first time I actually started typing. And it just didn't make sense. I am someone that can put together a presentation. Now all of a sudden I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And guys, the topic was not that difficult. Honestly, it wasn't a difficult concept to understand. It wasn't a difficult concept for me to impart to somebody else. And that's the biggest thing. You need to be able to communicate what the data shows and show that you have insight. I just couldn't do it. And I kept telling myself that I can't do it. Tumelo was shocked. He was so shocked. He was like, Katleo, you're someone that can speak well. You're someone that can communicate. You really do grasp concepts quite well. Why are you telling yourself you can't do this? And the worst thing is that Tumelo does not know the therapeutic area. Because in actual fact, I would have made him do the whole presentation. He's also really good at presenting. And because he had also told me that by 9 o'clock, you should actually be done with your theory. And by then, you should start now practicing it. And because I was not done, I was actually just starting, that even made it worse. Yo, guys, I was so dirmakar that when I got into, when I was supposed to now leave for the interview, I was running late. I drove to the gate only to realize I was wearing my slippers. I didn't have my shoes. Drove back, got my shoes. So already, that's just making things worse. I get there. Then there's this whole process of getting in. So I'm even later than being late. And then obviously says to me, Maria then obviously comes in and says, you're so incompetent. You can't even keep to time. How do you think these people are going to trust you? Luckily, they were running very behind time, right? Oh, not really luckily, because then I had to sit in the reception area and I was shaking. Guys, everything inside of me, I was so anxious. I was so anxious that even thinking about it now makes me feel anxious. I was so anxious. Yo, we go in. I greet everybody. I put on my smile. That one I'll never leave. Put on my smile. Hi, everyone. And they were kind. Guys, they were so calm. They were so kind. They really tried to make that interview welcoming, warm. I go in. The projector's not working. Oh, no, my computer with the projector's not working. My computer slows down. Maria's saying, I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. Then I get then we try to email the presentation to one of the interviewers. It doesn't go through. Then they're just like, you know what, it's fine. We don't need to see it on the big projector. Just turn your laptop so that it can face us and you, and then just present. Guys. Hi. Then I start. But Katla was babbling. She's holding on to the wrong information. So now I'm describing things that they already know. I am not showing them the insight. And guys, you know what's the saddest thing? I did actually complete my presentation and I had it there. I had interpreted things correctly. But because I did not believe in myself, I didn't believe in the work that I had put there. And guys, it was correct. I'm tatazeling. I can't speak now. This girl talks a lot. I can't speak now. I'm not a good communicator. I can't story tell. Yay. It gets to a point where they're even like, I'm so sorry to do this to you, but we're running out of time, so we're going to have to cut you off. Can you just get to the conclusion? Guys, now because I've told myself that I have to get to this journey to get to the conclusion because I don't believe in myself, right? So because I don't believe in myself, I'm not willing to give myself a different way, a different pathway to reach the conclusion. Now I tell myself I can't do it. Guys, I faff. I just don't get to the point. So then they have to cut me off, unfortunately. The medical director, which is the big boss, so sweet. He's like to me, you know what, it's fine. I'm going to ask you one more question. Just answer that. He asked the question. I can't answer it. Then he says, no, it's fine. Just tell us about yourself. And I could see that these people really, even though I wasn't going to get the job, I think it was very clear by then, but they still wanted me to have an opportunity to, share who I am. Katleo was touching. Guys, it got to a point where I was just like, and I think I was talking to Maria. I was just like, I'm so sorry, guys. I am sorry that I know I'm fully capable of doing this job, but I've been so unable to express that. So the medical advisor, one of them, she looks at me and she asks, okay, I just want to know, what will you do when you're in another stressful situation such as this? How will you get yourself out of it? And I couldn't answer her because I actually didn't have the tools. And I still don't. And in actual fact, what she was asking me is, how do you deal with your inner critic? How do you deal with your saboteur? So that judge, Maria, was wilding that day. It's so funny that once it was over, because now I was outside of it and I knew I wasn't going to get the job, I felt relieved. I didn't even feel sad. I felt relieved because it just felt like I had so much anxiety. I hated that anxiety that I felt so relieved that it was done. I was relieved. And I just didn't want to put myself in that position ever again. So I just never applied for another role ever again. But luckily, I now found myself in this job. But my judge was very loud and it made me obsess and fixate. And it made it very difficult for me to concentrate and to be motivated and to have my most optimistic mood that I'm capable of having. And something that I was very capable of doing. I lost out on an opportunity because I really, really couldn't dance with my inner critic and I couldn't control her. Okay. Next one, the avoider. The ultimate distraction. The avoider will make you dwell on the good and avoid the difficult. It avoids conflict, which isn't ideal in the workplace, and not all conflict is bad. Yes. So I'm not this person at work, but I can be this person in my interpersonal relationships where, because I don't want to have the conflict, I will just avoid the situation. So I'll just ghost someone. Ugh, I know. Bad. Okay. So yeah. But in the workplace, how you can think of it is, your boss just trying to give you criticism, and you come up with different ways to just avoid the conversation. Okay, 3, the controller. Hello, anxiety. The controller is all about taking charge. It can be pushy and intimidating, making communication angry and critical. Me. Me. Which can make others resentful and cause your relationships with colleagues to deteriorate. No one wants to work with a control freak. So this doesn't come out so much at work, but it comes out in my interpersonal relationships. And I can be so pushy and so intimidating. And it's because I feel like I'm out of control. I don't have any control. So whatever control I can get, I will take advantage of that, which is not nice for people. To a point where I've even seen it with my partner, where sometimes if he does something and it's like a mistake, he is just not comfortable with sharing it with me because he's so worried about how I will respond. And it's not that, he's worried that I'll be angry at him. It's how I respond. It's how I respond. It's how I, react. It's how I share my displeasure or my frustration. It is not good. Oh, God. When I said that doing this research is dragging me, this was just necessary. This is just, I can't explain it, but this was just so necessary. Even how I parent Nia, I will easily grow to anger, like irritation, like, Nia, why are you doing this? Instead of, baby, come on, my love. Why do we do? Oh, guys. And it's because I'm so anxious. I don't want to see her getting hurt. I will see things in a very dramatic way, in a very drastic way. And I'll already traumatize myself. And that trauma will come out in my reaction. But yeah, the controller. Okay. Number 4, the hyperachiever. The hyperachiever wants to be validated and tends to be a workaholic, neglecting emotional needs and relationships. This might sound like it's great for the workplace, but it can quickly lead to burnout. It always wants to impress and changes its personality to adapt, which can mean it's a struggle to form deeper connections. Okay. So the hyperachiever and the people pleaser will definitely be here, but they do have the pleaser at the bottom. But I can see how that they can relate. Yeah, I do see some parts of hyperachiever in myself, in that when I really want to get something, I don't even care about anything else. I won't see anybody. I don't care. Like, I just want to achieve this thing. And I can understand how that can make it very difficult for someone to then form a deeper relationship with a person like that. Okay, the hyper rational. Okay, with a preference for analyzing rather than experiencing, the hyper-rational needs to rationalize everything. This intense concentration can make it difficult to focus because there's so much to process. This person can seem arrogant and unfeeling. This also comes out with always also intellectualizing mental health. I learned that the other day. We've met, a lot of people have met the hyper-rational, right? I've met a hyper-rational. Yeah, they're difficult to be around. Okay, the hyper-vigilant. Dangers are everywhere. And the hyper-vigilant is aware of all of them. It worries about everything that could go wrong and is so full of self-doubt and suspicion. It's reassured by rules and authority, which can be a problem when it comes to creative, flexible work. Yeah, this person is very not flexible. I kind of see my mom in this. I won't lie. She's very vigilant. And And some parts of this actually has worked its way into me and worked its way into Nia as well. I was looking at Nia the other day on the playground and I was like, oh, damn, she's so careful. And Dumelo's like, yeah, but she is. But at some point, she does then throw herself into it. But in everything that she was doing, I just saw like, I felt like she wasn't having the full experience of what was happening because she was just so, so careful. And I was like, damn, that is me. Because every time she tries, I'm like, no. Every time she, yeah, that's me. I'm going to change that though. Okay, the pleaser. It's that unseen force that makes you hesitant to say no. The pleaser seeks to be accepted by helping everyone else. Unfortunately, this usually means its own needs are neglected, and this fosters resentment, making for a stressful and difficult working environment. Okay, the pleaser, the people pleaser. We get that one. Okay? The restless. The restless is easily distracted and impatient, jumping between different activities. The lack of focus can be distracting and hinder the progress of projects. Number 9, the stickler. Keeping things organized is the priority of the stickler. This can make the stickler critical and frustrated as it has high standards. Change is unacceptable, which could leave colleagues feeling resentful and full of self-doubt. Okay, sorry, I actually also had to preface this by saying that I'm reading this from an employee, a workspace perspective, but also think of this also in your interpersonal relationships, right? If you're a stickler, you'll be a stickler even at home, right? Making it very difficult for someone to feel very comfortable and around you, and they can feel that they're unaccepted to be around you because, they can't meet your high standards. I have some stickler in me, okay? And then number 10, the victim. Affection equals attention as far as the victim is concerned. It doesn't deal well with criticism, focuses on the bad, and can often be emotional. This creates a sense of frustration and isolation. This might sound all doom and gloom, but there's always hope. Sages to the rescue. Okay, so yeah, as we know, the victim is somebody that, can't see outside of themselves. So which means that they always feel like something is happening to them, even if something is happening around them, which can be problematic, as we can see, because they won't deal with criticism, which will stifle them in terms of growth, because if you're not getting criticism, you won't grow, right? I also do see myself here, and I've allowed the victim saboteur to come out in my interpersonal relationships, and that I have not empathized with people when they were going through their own things, and I just saw it from my perspective, from my lens, like, how does this affect me? Yeah. Okay, as I said, this was dragging me. Okay, so then you have 5 sages that can really assist you with that and with tackling. I'm going to name them. I'm not going to read about them. But the 1 is to empathize, 2, explore, 3, innovate, 4, navigate, and 5, activate. And I'm going to leave that there because I really want you to listen to his TEDx talk and see how he gets to that. Oh, guys, and he's ending in that TEDx talk. It will move you to a little bit of tears. It moved me to tears. It moved me to, guys, it's just what I needed to hear. So, and this empathy is not empathy towards others. It's actually more empathy towards yourself. Because another part of this conversation, which I shared prior, is that how you speak to yourself will become how you speak to others. So you need to start with giving yourself the empathy, and then that's what will teach you to have empathy for others. You need to be willing to explore, to think of other things, right? You need to be willing to innovate, navigate, and activate. So that is really the creative, the right side of your brain. I love this teaching. I think there's so much merit and value in looking at things from that perspective. It can sound all la-di-da, but I really think, I think there's so much value in, looking at life this way. So how do you then make your sage become a little bit more powerful. So he speaks about experiencing. So he says he speaks about taking 10 seconds to experience the full effect of a sense, or the full impact of a sensation. So if you're biting an apple, well, that's the example he uses. If you're biting the apple, actually tasting that crunch and, or feeling that crunch and tasting those juices and all that stuff. Apparently just doing something like that makes you more mindful, right? And being mindful means that you'll be aware, which means that you will be able to pick up when your saboteur is rearing its head, and you will then realize that, okay, this is where I need to get one of my sages to help me pivot. Okay, so I also want to get it through to you and get it through to myself that you will never kill Maria. Maria will never leave you. She's not going to walk out the door. Okay, she will always be there. All right, you're just going to learn to use her to your benefit and bring her out when it is necessary. You're not going to have her control your life. She's going to be separate from you. She's not going to be your voice. She's not going to be who you are. She's not going to represent you. All right. You are going to always be who you are, and you'll have some parts of her informing certain parts, but that's all it does, inform. Okay. So you meet her at a desk, okay? And that's the biggest thing, is once you start to characterize this inner critic of yours, so you have to give it a name. You have to learn how he, she, it was made up. You have to understand what makes them tick, and you have to see what makes them quieter, okay? And that's actually how you then get to a point where your sages are a big part of what you bring forward, and your saboteurs are not coming in and really blocking you and hindering your relationships, your progress in life, and your progress with yourself and your progress in work, right? Things like even just like forgiving yourself. So going to your inner critic and asking Maria, okay, cool, you say I'm unlovable. What is the actual instance, or what was the event that happened that makes me unlovable? Okay, Katlego, there was a time that you spoke really poorly to this person and you really hurt that person. Okay, Maria, you're right. I did do that. But I have learned from that, and I will never do that again. And I'm going to learn to change from that. And I am capable of change. That's also another thing, guys. You're capable of change, and change belongs to you. Like, you don't have to get it. Nobody has to afford it to you. It's in reach of you, right? And you can decide whenever you want to change. What people want to do, and what we also want to do, is hold ourselves hostage and, tell ourselves that we can only be a certain version of ourselves and we can never be a changed version of that. No, that's not true. And this is me fighting Maria, by the way, because when Maria tells me I'm unlovable, I know she is talking about situations where I've acted poorly. She's talking about situations where I have not been a nice person. I've not been kind. And she tells me that I'm unlovable because I'm not forgiving myself for those moments. So she tells me that this is the person that I am in every relationship, and it's not true. It's not true. Another thing is then you need to challenge her, right? So you need to start showing her evidence. So I told you, Maria likes to tell me that I'm not a good storyteller, that I'm not a good communicator. And a lot of the times I do believe her, to such a degree that I sometimes don't listen to my own podcast, by the way. I cringe at my own podcast. Yes, I do. When I say oof, I want to die. When I stumble over my words, oof, I want to die. When I kind of lose track of what I'm saying, I feel like the whole conversation is lost. But then the evidence, the true evidence, right, is that there are people like you who come into my DMs and say, your podcast has changed my perspective. You are such a good storyteller. I've now understood this thing better. Because what I'm sharing with you is not something that you've never heard. You've heard this. You've had these conversations. You've spoken to someone about this, or someone has shared this with you. So it's not new. And I know that. I'm not doing anything revolutionary. But what I am doing it is communicating in such a way that it's better for you to digest it. It feels nice to say that. It feels nice to claim my power back and say that. So I am a good communicator. I am. Okay, and I am a good storyteller. And that's how you then start challenging your inner critic. You have your issues, okay, and you have your situations and your experiences that will inform your inner critic. But you need to start challenging them, and you need to start challenging it with facts. If there is something that you can't challenge with, then see that as an opportunity for growth. Don't allow Maria or whoever yours is to make you believe that you can't move on from that you can't level up from that situation. So let's say, you want to innovate on another idea and you just come from failure, and now you've got this brand new idea, and then Maria tells you, oh man, but why are you even doing this? You're wasting our time, Katle. You're wasting our efforts. Why are we doing that? You know you're going to fail. No, you say no. Even if she shows you the evidence that you fail, you say no. In actual fact, yes, I did fail, but now I know why I failed. So I'm going to use those learnings to make me do better. All right? That's what you're going to do. Okay, I have to end the conversation. And it's because this conversation is going to continue in different ways. I really think this is the meat, guys. This is the meat. We finally at the meat. If you're vegetarian, this is the cauliflower. Okay, we're there. I can't wait for us to keep going through some of these things. And I won't lie to you. Just in this past weekend, I already feel a little bit more control. And it has made me feel a little bit more energized. We're going at it. We're going hard, guys. But yeah, let's meet again next week, Wednesday. I do want to say, though, we are almost reaching the end. So I want to start preparing you, especially for those of you who have seen this platform as something that gives you comfort. You need to start preparing yourself that it is going to come to an end. Not forever. We're going to take a break, okay? But we are working on something. We, just being me, because I am a lot of people in this podcast, but I am working on an event that will see us really connecting on a deeper level. Okay.